Let's go to the lines with no further ado. Oh, what's happened there? Let's go. You've just taken the call away from Rufy. Give me a caller. Thank you. Let's go and speak to Raimondo. Good evening, Ray.
Hello, fellas.
Raimondo.
Ray.
Does anyone call you Raimondo?
I do now.
Sometimes. Not for a long time, actually.
No.
I've been called that, yeah.
Okay. Go on, Raimondo. What do you want to say?
Well, I think about Gareth Southgate. I know you're going to talk about him a lot. I still think we're getting the wrong end of the stick. I've rung up before. I mean, we've got a good group of young players, but do you not think we're all getting a bit carried away with this group? I've heard it all before. I've been watching England for years. You know, we've all been saying we've got a great squad of players. And the thing I really like to ask you is that in this tournament, all the pundits and presenters, they've all been eulogising about Lionel Messi and Luka Modric and Antoine Griezmann. I'd say if those three players, I'd like to ask you two as ex-pros, you've been through the system in this country, if they'd have been growing up in this country, do you think they would have made it as professional footballers?
100%. You're talking about three of the best players in the world. They definitely would have made it.
Griezmann couldn't make it in France, you know.
He couldn't
had to go to Spain.
So he went to Spain, did he?
Yeah, you don't know that, Griezmann. Nobody wanted him in France.
What's the question?
Do you not think they would have done the same thing, though, if it was in England? They'd have just gone somewhere else?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We tend not to produce players like that in England, do we?
Gaza? I mean, they're few and far between.
Well,
I mean, we got Phil
George Best.
We got Phil Foden.
That's another thing I'd like to tackle you on, Jason.
Go on, mate.
The other day you were saying Messi's better than George Best. I was fuming.
Say that again. What did I say?
Messi's better than George Best.
Lionel Messi was better than George Best. I was fuming.
Messi's the best player I've ever seen. I never saw George Best play, but for me, he's the greatest player I've ever seen.
Well, I'd say to you, I'd direct you to the internet and just tap in George Best legendary dribbling.
No, listen, I've seen. No, I have seen the clips of George Best, and I'm only too aware of what he done. But I never saw him play. Did you?
Oh, whole game, you mean? Yeah.
Well, then you've got a better.
So you'd say George Best was better than Messi?
Well, yeah, I mean, you saying George Best never played in a World Cup, but
the point I was making with that,
he might have never played in a World Cup.
No, the point.
George Best was two-footed player.
Yeah, the point I was making with George Best was what I was saying was that some people say you've got to win a World Cup to be recognised as one of the best, and my point was, but George Best never played in a World Cup. And that's not his fault because he was from Northern Ireland. But the point I was making was,
if Lionel Messi had been Irish, he might never played in a World Cup.
But that's the point Jason's trying to make.
That's
that
what I'm
saying. George Best considered as one of the best in the world, yet he's never played in the World Cup.
It's not a criticism; it's an observation.
The fact Messi can only be considered for winning a World Cup. It shouldn't come into it. The World Cup shouldn't define a player. That's the point Jason's trying to make.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the thing about England, we've got a good group of young players, but if you look at a country like, hello?
Yeah, we're still here, Raimondo.
If you look at a country like Uruguay, they regularly produce players that play in top league in Italy and Spain.
Yep.
And they've won World Cup twice, and they've won Copa. Well, just till recently, they won the Copa America more times than Brazil and Argentina. They're level with Argentina now. Argentina just won it a year ago, I think.
That's right.
But they've struggled to get to a final. So, it's going to be very difficult for us to win a World Cup.
Well, look, you're right, but we pushed France close. Thanks to the call, Ray. We pushed France close, and we saw how close they came yesterday to winning the World Cup. That we're not a million miles away.
We should have gone further this year. We should have beaten France.
Yeah,
when Harry Kane scored that first penalty, they were on the ropes. We were on top.
We were, but then of course Harry Kane missed a penalty. If Mbappe
should have been over before that.
If Mbappe misses that penalty, Argentina win it in extra time.
Yeah, I agree. But France against England, France were on the back foot, and
they
were
were
worried. They were scared. We had a France supporter on when I was on last, and they said he was in his living room thinking it's game over. We've lost.
I watched the game like you did. I felt very comfortable going to that stages of that game. Yep. But then it's one
ifs and buts.
But absolutely, and looking back, brilliant ball in from Griezmann. Could you stop the cross? Then once that cross comes in, you've got to do better to stop the header, and then the rest is history.